ReZero is back for Season 4, Episode 3, and assuming you just watched the episode before you got here, yeah, it's grim. But despite that darkness, there is still some light that we can talk about. Firstly, at the start of the episode, Subaru wakes up in the hole they fell in last episode, together with, at first, just Ram. She tells him they are in a deep, dark, and somewhat cool cave, or more like a maze of sand. Subaru wonders why he's here with Ram, and she jogs his memory. During the falling sequence, he reached out and grabbed her hand, which is a really, really nice moment. He's looking out for her. I mean, we all know she's not doing well. That's also especially evident as the episode progresses. And Subaru wouldn't let her fall like that, so he did what he could to save her. Realization sets in, and Subaru begins to quickly freak out about being separated because he has no idea where Ram is, or what could have happened to her, and Ram tries to calm him down, and they get a bit snippy with each other. Subaru starts to get a little pissed off for no super strong reason, but Ram confirms that Ram is alive due to her synesthesia, and then Anastasia and Patrasche arrive. Taking stock of the current party, Subaru laments that nobody present is a fighter. Patrasche, I think, is their best bet. Subaru is useless without Bayako, Ram is exhausted, and Aridna can only fight by expending Anastasia's life. Subaru and Ram banter more, and it's a great showing of their relationship. Frankly, having just read Arc 2 web novel and going back and reading Arc 6 for these videos, a lot of nuance about Subaru and Ram's relationship is not really present in the anime, so it's good to see them try and reintegrate it here and there throughout Season 4 so far. We saw it at the end of Episode 1 as well when Subaru and Ram talk before they get ready to depart. A fun fact for the anime onlys in the novels, this talk was actually between Subaru and Petra, which is where this illustration comes from that was never adapted because they didn't talk. But the anime decided to make it Subaru and Ram to kind of repair that lack of relationship that they have in the anime, or at least that's my interpretation of why they did it. I think it's good. The two of them have healthy banter, but still deeply, deeply care for each other. While bantering in the cave, Subaru thinks about how the tone of their conversations is ill-fitting for the situation they're in, but they both also know that they're doing so to avoid the unease they were feeling. Anastasia at some point pulls Subaru aside to tell him that before he woke up, Ram was quite panicked about not being able to find Rem, so Subaru isn't all that useless at all, as his presence is helping keep Ram calm. The party runs into a fork in the road. It had already been more than 2 hours since they all got separated, and anxiety and the unease began to make waves. They decide to go right, following Freud's teachings, at least per Subaru's thoughts. The other two have no fucking idea what he's talking about, when they run into a giant iron door, or that's what Subaru considers it. However, the other party members have no idea why he would call it a door. It simply looked like a metal wall to them. He wasn't sure why, but instinctually, naturally, he perceived it to be a door, and reaching out to touch it, it disappeared as if it never existed. The group keeps going through the now open doorway, but Patrasche growls at the passageway, not wanting to move forward. Subaru convinces her to go, and they quickly run into a second door, and just like the first, it disappeared. At this point, Ram and Anastasia are both kind of listlessly walking alongside them, or Anna's riding on Patrasche, no longer speaking. Part of it was probably anxiety and unease, but the biggest issue was fatigue. They're all actually in bad shape. The miasma is clinging to them and dragging them all down. And Subaru tries to be his typical outspoken self to encourage the party, but Ram just says, "Shut up." He understood, but he couldn't help rid himself of this nagging, annoyed feeling. Anastasia butts in, telling him to just let it be, which actually pisses him off even more. Having failed to raise anyone's spirits, his legs felt even heavier. They get through the third door, however the fourth door is where they stop. Subaru yells, screams, and kicks the door, throwing a tantrum as his frustration explodes. Anna tells him to stop and that it's a dead end, causing him to respond like a fucking lunatic, swinging his arm out and breaking her lantern. Ram then clicks her tongue at him, and all of his frustration points to her instead. "What are you trying to say?" he asks. Despite her claims that it's nothing, he continues to push and pester. Not because of anything really that Ram has said or done outside the tongue click, but because the miasma pulls his own insecurities and fears to the surface. His fear that maybe he made the wrong decision when coming down this fork in the road, which Subaru, at least in the novels, routinely thinks about. Like there's this constant gnawing anxiety that he feels about, oh my god, did I fuck us all over by picking the right path? And it all comes boiling over out at Ram instead. Anastasia tries to mediate again, only for Subaru to once more brush her off. Ram says he's awfully keen to keep advancing, and Subaru says of course he is. He's here to meet the sage, to which Ram disagrees. They are not here to meet the sage, they are here to save Rem. They aren't the same thing, causing the two to only yell at each other more and more. Ram yells out and asks why, just why did he grab Ram and not Rem? He always has his hands full, and it's not like he truly ever cared about Rem. Obviously, that served as a pain point, so Subaru unleashes Invisible Providence, blowing Ram backwards. He then approaches her and straddles her, wrapping his hands around her neck. In the novels, Subaru's inner thoughts are as follows. You'll regret what you said about me when you stop breathing. You'll regret saying that shit about me. How dare you hurt me? As Subaru yells, just like in the anime, that it makes him sick that an asshole like her shares the same looks as Rem. Ram manages to cast a spell to free her from his grip, and Subaru tells her that it's far too late to beg for her life. Ram says that nothing good will come of allowing Rem to see an emotionless womanizer like him, only she didn't think she could stop them, so she simply killed the one she thought was less useful. Tentatively, Aridna and Subaru agreed to work together, but almost instantly, Subaru considers that she just backstabbed Ram. Wouldn't she do the same to him? He releases Invisible Providence once more, but before he could strangle her, she was cut in two by a blade of wind from Ram. Her upper body very, very nastily dangling from Subaru. He screamed and screamed, trying to shake her off and telling her to just hurry up and die already, but she screamed and refused and cried out that she didn't want to die before finally dropping to the sand, or actually more like being yeeted to the sand. Subaru calls out to Patrasche. They have to go, but Patrasche ignores him, and then he begins to throw his tantrum at her instead, and she looks up, blood dripping from her mouth, having feasted on the remains of Ram's body. She opened her jaw, and he could hear the sound of his body being chewed until the moment his consciousness was extinguished, even after his head was shattered and his ears were no more. I think it might be safe to say that this is probably the most fucking disgusting and brutal thing that has ever happened in ReZero, and the anime did not hold out on us in its presentation. How quickly they turned on each other, the sheer brutality of their actions, and the unbelievable gore that I personally have never seen in a fucking TV anime. Dude, Jesus Christ. It's really fucking nasty. Of course, they were inflamed by the miasma, but also, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything that happened here wasn't in line with how they might feel in any regards whatsoever. That's the thing about miasma. It fires up actual emotions that do exist. Deep, dark thoughts, insecurities, fears, worries that you may try to suppress are brought to the surface by the polluted mana that courses through their gates. I had mentioned this earlier, but for Subaru in the novels, he is much, much more insecure about the decision he made to go right on the fork. He is really worried about making a bad decision, especially as the miasma slowly drags them down more and more. He's also someone who has always been painfully worried about how others might perceive him, so to blow up at a tongue click because of his own insecurities is Subaru dragged to 1000%. It's like Arc 3 Subaru, if he was a fucking lunatic instead. For Ram, her fears about Rem's safety that she kept hidden from Subaru, and the deep and distant uncertainties about the life that Subaru claims Rem had lived creep up to the surface. You know, Subaru, like, think of it this way, Subaru is the only source of information that they have about Rem's previous life. And while I'm sure that Ram likely doesn't fully doubt him, you're always going to have this nagging feeling in the back of your head, dragged out, especially by the miasma, and the uncertainty of why she would be saved from the fall instead of Rem. For Aridna, I think it's largely her uncertainty in the group dynamic. She is here purely for Anastasia, and she doesn't really know these people all that well outside of what she had experienced with Anastasia, and if push came to shove, she isn't sure exactly who to trust or who to make friends with, until the miasma pushed her to make a decision. Which is when she backstabbed Ram, which also inflamed Subaru's already present distrust for Aridna due to being an Echidna variant. How fucking disgusting was this loop? Did you have to pause the episode? Did you have to look away? Let me know in the comments below. When Subaru woke up, he was, obviously not doing well. That loop is probably one of the worst he's ever endured. In the novels, we get some inner monologue from him. When it came to his own death, he was a veteran. He had experienced it more times than he could count on two hands, but that didn't mean he was used to death either. That applied to his comrades and friends. The thought of someone he knew dying was enough to tear at his own heart. He tried to throw up. It was far too disgusting to think about when Ram commented on his state, and Subaru grew afraid. What if something like that happened again? And Ram bent over and opened his mouth and stuck her finger down his throat to help him eject the nausea inside of him all over the sand. And then Anna and Patrasche arrive, and Subaru clutches his chest in the novels. He knows it's stupid because it happened in a loop, but he felt a scar had been left on his heart by having been killed by Patrasche. He thinks about how it was the same with Rem and Ram at first too. Because of the mental backlash of the last loop, this time Subaru is like overly kind. It's possible some of the lingering miasma is even amplifying his anxiety here to make him this way. This time at the crossroads, they go left. Subaru, obviously, didn't want to go right again. In the novels, he thinks about how his checkpoint has now updated as well, because now he's respawning in the cave. No longer was he in the sand dunes. It was post-separation, meaning that there very well could be people he wished to save that he could no longer, which served as a new source of anxiety for him. Suddenly, Anna smells something burning. Subaru puts his lantern aside to scout ahead, but the sand swallows his foot, and he gets dragged down into a pit with the most nefarious-looking witch beast yet. It completely blows away a bear from the cave, And Subaru thinks about how he had encountered many witch beasts, but most of them followed some rule defining their appearance to look largely like animals. This one was different. It didn't fit in at all. This place was more or less a witch beast crematorium. Sandtime, the Garden of Witch Beasts, the Miasma Path, and now this. They are all grisly traps in order to keep people from reaching the tower. There is a lot cut from this centaur section, which we'll talk about later, but Ram intervenes to try and save Subaru, reaching out and telling him that he can't die because it'll make Ram cry. They unleash a dual attack of El Fura and Invisible Providence, but they are no match for the centaur's power, both of them being blown away. Subaru considered it destruction, a party wipe. Death piled onto pointless death. His vision was blurry, but still he saw a figure stand in front of him to protect him. Ram with her arms raised. All he wanted to do was to tell her to stop, but he couldn't muster the words, and all he could do was ask why. And again she states it. It would make Ram cry. Ram was standing there for the sake of the little sister she couldn't remember, to protect the person her little sister, who she couldn't remember, loved. He couldn't understand what drove her to go that far. Even while not understanding, even while not knowing Ram, even while only following the tales told by Subaru, Ram still put her trust in his words, and she still put her life on the line for the sister she doesn't know. He looked for something, some sort of plan to get everyone up, but nothing came. His determined resolve was for nothing, and then white lights blew away the centaur's body as a figure approached. Her thin lips turned into a smile as she reiterated what she said last episode, "Found you." And thus marks the end of one of the best episodes of ReZero I've ever seen. Seriously, it is ReZero distilled. Fantastic character dynamics, Subaru's self-loathing, violence and gore, and helpless situations. What did you think of the episode? Let me know in the comments below. I don't want to get ahead of myself, because admittedly, I have not gone back and rewatched all of the ReZero anime in a while, so maybe I'll be off base here, but in my opinion, Season 4, Episode 3 is like, maybe top 10 of the entire anime. It is absolutely fantastic. It feels like pure, unadulterated ReZero for the first time in a while. I had heard going into this episode was going to be one for the books, and it was still better than I ever expected. The shot composition, the framing throughout the episode is something that has not been seen in this anime in literal fucking years. The entire cave section was claustrophobic with all these tight and panicky shots. There were all these methods of unique presentation that I just grew to not expect from this anime anymore. Whether it be something as simple as, the close-up confined shot of Subaru reaching into his bags, something like the camera angle changing to be from the door's perspective as they open the second, or something as awesome as the shot of Subaru, his hand, pressed up against his face, the iron door right in front of him, and Invisible Providence kind of coiling around him like it had returned to its roots as a sinister, fucked-up power that only exists to harm people. The direction, the framing, the sound design, the music choice of the entire miasma loop sequence was just... it was fucking awesome, and I have no other words to describe it, really. The explosiveness and fluidity of Subaru versus Ram, that small cut of her reaching for the strap on her leg or whatever was going on there, Subaru's incredible voice acting, as usual by the way, and then going into the shot of Anastasia in the complete darkness, like screaming down the cave, her bellows echoing down the cavern walls. They just seriously pulled no fucking punches on the gore. It's pretty much just as disgusting, stomach-churning, and foul as the novel version, and it perfectly captures the tone of the scene. It's amazing. The shot of Subaru on top of Ram as he chokes her, being distant, but also close enough that we clearly know what's going on, and we can see it blown up on the cave wall beside them due to the light as Ram struggles and kicks her legs. It's so gas, man. It's such a fucked up, disgusting scene, and the use of blue light for when the lights are out is awesome. So it's especially awesome when Anna gets bisected and there's a flash of light from that. Every episode just gets better than the last, man. Only complaints, and sorry, there are complaints. The sequence with the centaur, not that powerful, or at least not as powerful as it was in the novels. It is much longer in the novel version, and we can get to that in the cut content section right after this, but it's basically a summarized version of their encounter with the centaur. It's still good, but it lacks the weight and the impact both physically and emotionally that the novels had, including from the repeated white lights that fired into the centaur. It just didn't hit for me, really. Also, the ending is fine. I've said this in Discord and on stream that the OP is literally one of the best I've ever seen, so if the ending wasn't all that hype, it's fine. And well, here we are. It's fine. There are some cool shots in it, but I don't think it feels super duper inspired, and the direction for it, somewhat lacking. Still, a solid ending though. The OP just changed my fucking life. This episode is an incredibly strong 9 out of 10. Feel free to post your ratings for the episode in the comments. We have some decent-sized cuts this episode, though I think this episode is so fucking good regardless that I'm not really pressed about most of them. But I think the scenes that were removed were pretty good, so let's talk about them. The first cut is really minor, but Anastasia remarks that before they fell, she managed to grab Subaru's emergency bag, so they aren't entirely screwed in the cave. Subaru is very proud of himself for packing it, and Ram congratulates him, and as a reward, lets him carry the lantern. The second cut isn't really a cut, it's a multiple stage continuity change. When Subaru is describing his logic for picking the right path, the web novel, the light novel, and the anime all have a different answer. In the web novel, Subaru picks it because it's what Kurapika from Hunter x Hunter would do. For copyright, that was probably removed. In the light novel, he mentions Kong Ming, a Chinese statesman and strategist who lived a couple thousand years ago. In the anime, they settled on Freud. Couldn't tell you why, feel free to speculate. This is a small detail, but in the novels, before the fight breaks out in the cave, Ram is kinda AFK and sitting on Patrasche, so when Subaru brings out Invisible Providence to attack her, he thinks in his mind that he is quite literally dragging her from her high horse as he pulls her into the sand. Next up, Ram isn't actually just straight up killed and then eaten by Patrasche in the novels. After cutting Anna in half, she actually stands back up. She hobbles over to Subaru, approaching him with faltering steps as she raises her wand in hopes to kill him. Subaru tries to call Invisible Providence again, but a pain pierces his eye. The side effect of the power burned his mind and he collapsed at the ground, but just before she could cast a spell to kill him, Patrasche then eats her. A very, very heartwarming moment that I am sad was cut, this was kind of like the saddest cut for me, was Subaru's words to Ram after he loops from the miasma death. Before Anna and Patrasche return, Subaru responds to Ram's question from the previous loop about why he had saved her and not Rem. He stumbles over his words, but the reason he grabbed her was because she was the weakest person and the person closest to him. He wasn't weighing her or anyone else on a scale. He made a decision with his lackluster ability to act in extreme situations. He's like kind of stammering, he's tripping over himself, but he earnestly tries to answer her deepest concerns. And she responds in like a half-joking manner, which eases Subaru's heart a bit. I really like that moment though. It's a shame it got cut. The biggest change of the episode is how the Centaur pit actually unfolds. It's actually a massive change, but I think what we got is obviously fits more for the pace of the episode, so I see why they did it. When Subaru falls down, he doesn't immediately start running and we don't immediately jump into this action sequence, sorry. He's stricken with fear and the Centaur blows away the courtesan bear. The Centaur then approaches Subaru, but it doesn't immediately attack. It wasn't out of pity, but it more so seemed unsure of his presence. Subaru thinks that he has died many, many times until this day, and because of that, he was able to analyze life or death situations and reason why he wasn't being killed right away. He considered why it focused on the bear, but it wasn't because the bear was more dangerous. It wasn't because the Centaur was sadistic. It wasn't because it was playing with him. It was because the Centaur had no eyes. It quite literally had no idea he was there, and to take advantage of that, he began to throw some of his belongings around the pit to guide the Centaur around as he tried to sneak away. This is actually a decently long sequence in the novels, with Subaru doing his best to navigate the pit while Ram and Anna helplessly watch. There are some more details about it, not really going to get into it because it's not that important. What is important is that this whole sequence doesn't work for too long because they realize the crying sound of the Centaur is not a useless function. It is utilizing echolocation. And then the chaos unfolds. A couple parts are cut from the direct fight with the Centaur as well that are pretty cool. Subaru perceives the Centaur to be laughing at him, and Subaru's inner monologue goes like so. Laughing at the weak human who lost to a witch beast in a test of knowledge and is now being toyed with by its incomparable strength. As he imagined those thoughts of the Centaur, the dark feelings in the corner of his heart took shape, giving direction to the black power that responded. He wielded Invisible Providence to try and slip in and attack the monster internally. However, pain went throughout his head, and the pain was so severe that it caused Subaru to crumble. The backlash to Invisible Providence here in the novels is unlike any that we have seen in the story. He hits his temples to make it go away. He hit himself over and over and over again, but he couldn't overcome the pain. And then the Centaur unleashes fire to surely kill Subaru, but unlike in the anime where Ram saves Subaru, Patrasche saves him by ripping off the Centaur's arm. Then Patrasche is kicked with Subaru in her mouth, and the two are sent flying. The severe Invisible Providence pain is why Subaru is basically stuck on the ground for the rest of the fight. That's about it for the cut content. A few changes to the flow of events, but overall the episode is still fucking awesome. Seriously, one of the best ReZero episodes, period. Incredible adaptation, incredible job well done, and I'm excited to see you guys for the rest of Season 4. We're going to talk about the opening now, and this will have novel spoilers, so you probably don't want to be here as an anime only. Okay, I said in the last video if you guys wanted an OP analysis, we could do one in the Episode 3 video, and well, you guys wanted one. I'm going to play this one really carefully because I don't know if you guys know this, but Kadokawa really does not like people talking about anything that they ever make. They want to kill you on sight if you ever talk about anything that they ever do. So I'm going to be really careful and try not to show too much when I talk about the opening here. Obviously, the opening here starts with this budding plant or this budding tree. It's very pretty. And a lot of people have been asking, what does this mean? Well, I think this has a double meaning. Firstly, I think this is obviously a reference to Flugel, who has a lot of prominence in this arc. I mean, Flugel's tree in Arc 3 is a pretty clear reference to me. But I also think that the double meaning, as you can see, as we flip through the book in the back here, you see all the experiences that Natsuki Subaru has been through in the ReZero world as the tree grows and these branches, they start to bud. And I think this is an obvious reference to budding experiences and connections. I mean, if you've read Arc 6, you know that this is pretty much what this arc is about. And that's why this shot leads directly into Subaru looking up, because these branches represent Subaru's relationship. They represent his experiences, his connections, his time in this world. And these are what form Natsuki Subaru, so it segues directly into him looking up at the camera. It's a cool shot. For the rest of the next 20 seconds here of the OP, it's just like a bunch of establishing shots of characters and locations. There's not much to talk about. It is cool, and I do think you can make an argument that, it's showing us all these people because all these people are involved in Subaru's life and stuff, which is when we get to the echidna shot. Now, I think a lot of anime-onlys were like, why is there an echidna shot here? But as soon as you watch episode 1, kind of makes sense when it fades into Anastasia for obvious reasons. The Echidna reveal was a pretty big one for a lot of people. And then, I think also for obvious reasons, we fade into Beatrice, because obviously these three people are connected. Echidna probably made Echidna, and I mean, her name is fucking Echidna, come on. And Echidna also made Beatrice. All three of these people are connected. You know who they're also connected to, for better or for worse? For Betty it's for better, for Echidna it's for worse. Also connected to Subaru, who is, regenerated here. He, regenerates right in front of us, which is a super interesting way to display that. But the reason why I think this happens, let's think about Arc 6 this way, right? When Subaru loses his memories, and if you haven't watched this channel before, I like to call Subaru without his memories Nubaru, so I'm going to call him that for the foreseeable future. Nubaru's objective for some time, as stated in text, is to kill Natsuki Subaru and bring back Natsuki Subaru, right? So I think the reformation, or I guess even the formation of Subaru here is quite literal. And going from Echidna to Echidna to Beatrice shows that these chains of connections help form the person known as Natsuki Subaru as well. So maybe it's not even appropriate to call this a regeneration. It's just a generation. All these connections come together, and they form the Subaru that we have here. Obviously, we have this Satella into Amelia shot. I mean, I don't really think there's much to say here. Pretty obvious one. ReZero has a shit ton of bait and switch about characters being the same person. You have the Subaru equals Flugel theories, Al equals Subaru theories, Sirius equals Fortuna, Otto equals Pandora, obviously, and of course Satella equals Amelia. And this is the arc that we learned the most about Satella, I think. So it seems pretty obvious to me that this shot will be here. And we have the Arc 6 moment later where Amelia places her hand in the handprint that fits at the top of the tower. So we have Julius looking very pretty, but very solemn for obvious reasons. His arc in Arc 6 is a lot about self-discovery and, finding his own place in this world. Makes sense to me, and obviously makes sense why it would be followed up by the Gluttonies. Now, if you ask me, this shit shouldn't have been in the opening to begin with, but it's in the opening. So, there we go. And also for obvious reasons, it's followed by this, oh my god, this awesome ramp cut that I love looking at. Which is, of course, going to be obviously followed by a little shot of Rem here. And now this is when we get to the fucking greatest shot of the opening, okay? I love this cut. Subaru is surrounded by Subarus dying over and over all around him, and you'll notice that I don't think it's all, but I think it's most of the deaths that are happening around him are deaths that he has actually experienced. This death right here, pretty obviously the Arc 2 death. The Subaru beside him is not happy to watch that one. This death here, obviously, or probably an Arc 1 death when his guts get slashed by Elsa. You can see it, I might have to zoom in on it on the editing software here. You can see him in the background here killing himself with the sword at the end of Arc 3. That was there. In this shot here, you can see the fucking face he's making. You can see him frozen. Arc 3 reference probably. And it's more than just a cool cut, which it is. Some would say it's one of the coolest cuts. I think this is incredible. But it's also indicative of, as people might know, Subaru reading his own books of the dead near the end of Arc 6. So, this is Nubaru experiencing all of these deaths over and over again. It is the embodiment of Subaru finding himself as he gets to experience the life of Subaru. Experiencing that torment to become whole again. And I think that's also backed up by what happens after he runs. Here, you see him running, yippee. But at the end of this running sequence, right, I think this is important here. We see Subaru jumping towards the light. And that isn't just because it looks cool, which it does. This light, I think, is also supposed to be representative of him using Corleones to find his books in the library. I don't know if you guys remember from the Season 4 trailer. Probably not going to pull it up right now. I'm already playing with fire here. But there's a shot of Subaru quite literally jumping into it, like falling into a Book of the Dead, and I assume as he reads it. So, this is also representative of him using Corleones to jump into his own books, which I think is really, really cool. I would also think it's cool, I don't know if this is actually going to happen, so no promises here. If this is like the Corleones visual, like this black and red splatter with like these lights, that would be pretty sick. Not much to analyze here for the fight in the dunes. It's pretty badass though. I really do like this shot of Subaru and Betty riding on Patrasche looking up as well. Because obviously, he's looking up at multiple things. He's looking up here at this bird. But this bird goes on to kind of fade into light. Just like he was looking up at in episode 2 when his head gets blown clean off his fucking shoulders. And we cleanly segue into Shala doing a silly little shooting animation here, which has some great character acting so that she can celebrate having blown his shit smooth off. We get a cool shot of the coins here immediately after we see Shala, because we see the fake sage, and then we see possibly the fake sage on the coin, because we don't really know what he looks like, but we see the sage on the coin. To which we then cut to Reed, to which we then cut to the dragon, and my god, I'm not gonna lie, this shot does not look very good. This is like the only part of the opening I don't really like that much. He looks like a Pokemon title screen. Garkar made it edit, throw it up on the screen. But we show off some of the 400 years ago squad, that's cool. Sorry, you can't turn off... Wait, can you? Oh, beast. Okay. I didn't think you could turn off annotations anymore on YouTube. A lot of people have asked, like, what the fuck this shot means, and to me, I think it's pretty obvious. This is Ruia Arneb reaching out and connecting with herself, much like she does in the Hall of Memories after being mind-broken by Subaru's return by death. Hence why it then transitions into Subaru also reaching out and touching his own hand, looking like, what the fuck? He looks a little bit stunned, doesn't he? This could even be just straight up a reference to the witch factor being implanted into him later in the arc, as we immediately cut to him being passed out on the floor when he gets gluttonied. And also a really, there's a couple of fucking sick-ass references here. This part right here, when we get this shot of the book and Subaru on the floor, this book is ReZero Light Novel Volume 1, but written in ReZero script, which is so cool to me. That is such a fucking sick reference. The second reference, this was not found by me, this was found by Garkar from... He is the main translator of Witch Cult Translations, he's also in my Discord. He counted it here that there are 47 books scattered around Subaru, and per his calculations, if he's wrong, you can yell at him, not me, I've never done anything wrong in my life. Per his calculations, that is the exact count of Subaru deaths as of the end of Arc 6 in the web novel. Now, technically, doesn't make sense for this scene, because Subaru would not be reading his own books from the tower, which is why I think it's just a cool reference to the amount of deaths he has in the web novel. That's fucking awesome. And then, of course, everyone's favorite. We get the fucking stairs. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it's a cool fucking shot. There's also this quick shot I like here, this frame. It's literally, it's 2 frames, where there are like this blue gigantic tear stain on his face, which really does capture the scene that Aura Monster depicts that nobody's actually fucking read. Because he's supposed to be like crying as he walks up the stairs too, but I don't think that's in the illustration, or maybe that's only in the web novel, I don't know. But really cool frame here. And then we go through these Book of ReZero moments, and then the book closes. Fun fact, this is Natsuki Subaru written in ReZero script. This is probably just an Easter egg because in the actual story, Books of the Dead are written in the language of your name. So Natsuki Subaru's book is in Japanese. This is canon. So, this is probably just a cool reference and not actually how it's going to look in the anime. It's also probably so some, like, Japanese viewer doesn't see this and go, huh, Natsuki Subaru book, what's that all about? So. And then finally we end off on the stand-up reference, and we get our first look at Nubaru in the anime. For those that have forgotten, the main difference between Subaru and Nubaru being that Nubaru has his bangs down like this to signal that he is fucked in his little head. Overall, cool little shot of Rem in his eye here too. Overall, fucking awesome opening. It is incredible. Let me know what you guys think of the opening below, and that'll be the end of the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe for more. You can also check the description down below to become a member, which gives you benefits like early videos, membership badges, and cool custom emotes. You can join the Discord where we talk about ReZero, Kagurabachi, Jujutsu Kaisen, and all kind of stuff. Additionally, you can go to the channel store and pick up some awesome stickers made by our channel artist, so you can carry the power of Graphia with you on your water bottle. That's about it though. Thank you for watching. See ya.